morning to everyone. Once again, welcome to history class. In this class, we are going to see the next chapter from the history course. First, chapter number 9, Traders, King and Pilgrims. In that, this following topic we are going to see how to find out about the trade and traders, the spread of Buddhism and the beginning of Bhakti. So, dear cadets, in this chapter we are going to see about the traders, about the pilgrims and how these peoples are managed by the king we are going to see. The first point we will see how to find out about the trade and traders. What the peoples at that time used to have a trade and what the traders used to do from one place to another by migrating and trading. Then the spread of Buddhism, how the Buddhism spread to the whole. The beginning of Bhakti, right? We are going to understand. That means the worshipping to the God. Next, point number 1, how to find out about the trade and the traders. That is speaking the chapter number 9. So here in this point we are going to see the first, the traders, the king and the pilgrims. In that the first point we are going to have a discussion on that. So this is the first point. Next, you read about the northern black polished wave in chapter number 9. This fine pottery, especially bowls. First point is here. You have read about it. Here it is written in the chapter number 8. This is the old textbook. So if you are having old textbook, the number will be different. In the old textbook, you are going to have 12 chapters, but the new textbook is having 11 chapters because the chapter number 2 and 3 is merged in one. Okay, so that is the correct one, chapter number 8. The previous chapter already we studied about northern black polish. Okay, next, especially bowls and plates, which were found where? In the archaeological survey sites, right? In the subcontinent, that means India, right? So how do you think it's reached to these places? Due to the migration, due to the trade, these things are moving from one place to another. Few people are buying and few people are selling. Traders may have carried out them from the place to place and were made to sell them at the other place. South India was famous for gold, spices and especially pepper, which was also known at the time black gold, right? Because there was a high demand in the Roman Empire. Next, the land and there must have been quite a lot of trade. Many Roman gold coins have been found in South India. So how the Roman gold coins are found in South India? That's a proof that the people used to come from the Roman Empire to purchase the different spices from India, and in return they used to give gold coins. Next point. Traders explored several sea routes. Some of these followed the coast. They were other across the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, where the sailor took advantage of the monsoon wind. So it is going to be easy to sail on the sea and they can quickly reach. So if they wanted to reach the western coast of the subcontinent from East Africa and Arabia, they choose the sail with the southwest monsoon and steady ship had to build for their long journey. Next, these were talking about the routes from where the people used to come for the trading. Next, the new kingdoms along the coast. The southern half of the subcontinent is marked by the long coastal line and with the hill, plateau, rivers, valley. This is the physiographic features of our India. Amongst the river valley, there was a Kaveri, is the most fertile. Chief and the kings who control the river valley and the coast become the rich and powerful. Sangam poem mentioned the Movendra. So what is the word Movendra is here? We are going to understand. This is the Tamil word, okay, which means the three chiefs, right? And used for the head of the three family, that is the Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. Next, see the map number 7 and on page number 5, you are going to understand about who became powerful in South India around 2300 years ago. Next, Each of these chiefs had two centers of power, one inland and one on the coast. So, finally, of these six cities, two were very important, Pohar and the Kaveri. Right? So, in that particular point, we are already going to see about the people, those who are controlling the inland plus that the sea, coast, part of Cholas, Madurai and the capital of the Pandya. The chief did not collect the regular taxes, instead they demanded the receipt gift from the people. They also went on military expedition and collect the tribute from neighboring areas. They kept some of the wealth and distribute the rest among their supporters, including members of their family, soldiers and poets. Many poets whose compositions are found in Sangam collection compose poem praise of the chief, who often reward them with a precious stone, gold, horses, elephant, chariots and fine clothes. So in this particular paragraph we are seeing about they used to collect the gift. They never used to collect the taxes or the revenue. They used to collect the gift and gift they were not keeping with them. They used to have few with their sharing with the family, sharing with the soldier, with the poets and all. Those who were supporting to them. Around 200 years later, a dynasty known as Satavahana became powerful in the western India. That you can see in the map number 7, again on the page number 5. The most important ruler in the Satavahana was the Gautami Putra, Sri Satkarni. The name of the king was that the Gautami Putra, Sri Satkarni. We know about him from an inscription composed on behalf of his mother, Gautami, right? Balshri. So, Balashri. He and other Satavahana rulers were known as a lord of Dakshinapatha. Right? Literally, the route leading to the south. Dakshinapatha means, Path means to be the way and Dakshin means to be the direction, that means the south. Which also used as the name of the entire southern region. He sent his army to the eastern and western and the southern coast. Why do you think he wanted to control the coast? Because the coast was the main source and the main area for the trading purpose. People used to come from the long distance and from India also, and they used to have the trading with each other. And in regard, they used to give the gift and the taxes to the king. That's why the story of Silk Road, the rich glossy clothes of silk as well as the smooth texture make it highly valuable fabric in most societies, making silk in a complicated process. The raw silk has to be extracted from the cocoon. Already you are knowing how the silkworm are making the cocoon, and after that from cocoon the silk is going to be extracted from the mulberry tree. Spun into the thread and woven into the coal. Techniques of making silk were the first invented in China about 7,000 years ago. So, while the methods remain a closely growth secret of thousands of years, some people from China who went to the distant land on the foot, horse there and the camel carried silk with them, and the path they followed came to known as the Silk Road. Next, sometimes Chinese rulers sent gifts of silk to the ruler in the Iran and West Asia, and from there the knowledge of the skills silk spread further west. About 2000 years ago, wearing silk became the fashion amongst the ruler and the rich peoples of the Roman. It was very expensive as it is had to be brought all the way from the China along the dangerous road through the mountain desert. Peoples living along the route often demanded the payment for allowing traders to pass through. So here you can see about for the trading, the traders used to face number of difficulties, and after that physical features were major. The attack of the thieves and the kings to pay the tribute, so many things were there. So finally they used to reach to the particular place for trading. Now look at the map, page number 6, and that is given on page number 76 and 77, where you can see the Silk Route and its branches. Some king tried to control large portion of the route. This was because of could benefit from the taxes and tributes and gifts were brought by the traders traveling along the route. In return, they often protect the traders who pass through their kingdom from attack by the robbers. Already I explained this one. The best known of the rural control the Silk Road were the Kushana, who ruled over the Central Asia and the Northwest India around 2000 years ago. Next, the two major centers of the power were the Peshwas and the Mathura. The Takshila was included in the kingdom during the rule. A branch of Silk Route extended from Central Asia down to the seaport at the mouth of the river Indus, from where the silk was shipped westward to the Roman Empire. The Kushana were amongst the earliest rulers of the subcontinent to issue the gold coin. Who were there? So the Kushana rulers were the first one who were issuing the gold coin. These were used by the traders along the Silk Route. Next, we are going to see about the spread of Buddhism. How Buddhism spread to the other parts. The most famous Kushana ruler was the Kanishka, who ruled around 1900 years ago. He organized a Buddhist council where the scholar met and discussed important matters. Right? So Ashwagosha, remember the name Ashwagosha, a poet who composed a biography of the Buddha, the Buddha Charita, lived in his court. Ashwagosha and Buddhist scholar now began writing in Sanskrit. Next, a new form of Buddhism known as Mahayana Buddhism. So here you are going to see about how Buddhism is spreading. And the new form of the Buddhism was known as Mahayana Buddhism. Next, this had two distinct features. Earlier, the Buddha's presence was shown in the sculpture by using the certain sign. For instance, his enlightenment, when he attended enlightenment, was shown by the sculpture of the people. Now the statue of Buddha were made. Many of these were made in Mathura, while others were made in Takshila. So in your textbook, you can see this type of photograph. Moving further, the second change was a belief in the Bodhisattva. Were supposed to the person who attained the enlightenment, right? And what will happen there? See here, in the textbook, the photographs are placed like this. Okay? The two photographs. Next. Moving further, once they attained the enlightenment, they could live in a complete isolation and meditate in the peace. However, instead of doing that, they remained in the world to teach and help other people. The worship of Bodhisattva became very popular and spread through the Central Asia, China, and later to the Korea and Japan. Buddhism also spread to the Western and Southern India, where the dozens of the caves were hollowed out hills of monks who were living in that caves. Some of these caves were made on the orders of the kings and the queens. Other by the merchant and the farmer. These were often located near passes through the Western Ghat. Roads connecting the prosperous ports on the coast with the cities in the Deccan ran, and these passes traders probably held in these cave monasteries during their travels. Buddhism also spread in the southeastward to Sri Lanka and Myanmar, Thailand. These are the places where Buddhism is spread, and other parts of the Southeast Asia, including Indonesia also. The older form of Buddhism known as the Trivedha, right? That is the Trivedha. Buddhism was more popular in these areas. Next, we are going to see about the Chinese pilgrims, those who visited to India. In that, the best one was that the Fasang, who came to the subcontinent around 1600 years ago, and Feng Zheng, who came around 1400 years ago, and Ai Kuan, who came about 50 years after the Shuang Zheng. They came to visit places associated with the life of Buddha. Why the Chinese pilgrim used to visit India? Because to visit and to understand about the Lord Buddha's as well as the famous monastery. Each of these pilgrims left an account of his journey. They wrote of the dangers and the encounter on their travels. Next, while often what these people used to do, they used to collect number of the things from India and they used to take with them. In that, you can see here what they used to. Buddha made gold, silver, the statues of Buddha, the manuscript they used to collect and they used to carry with them through the sea. Some may be destroyed because if heavy load on the ship will be there, it is difficult to travel. So they used to throw them into the sea. Few were remaining and after that they used to move to their place. Next, the beginning of Bhakti. This is very important part. Already you people are knowing about that. I am not telling, I am not promoting anything over here. Bhakti, what is the meaning? That is the heart relation to the God. When we are praying to the God, right, with the pure heart, that's the connection between the God and you. That is the prayer, right? Here we are going to see about the Bhakti, how worshipping is prayer. First, this was also the time when the worship of certain deities which become a central features of later Hinduism gained in importance. These deities include Shiva, Vishnu and goddess such as Durga. And these was worshipped through the Bhakti and idol become very popular at this time. Bhakti is generally understand a person devotion to his or her chosen deity. Anybody, whether rich or poor, from belonging to any caste, high or low, men or women, they can join the path of Bhakti. So it was easy for the ordinary people to join this Bhakti. That's why the ordinary people attracted to it. The idea of Bhakti is present in the Bhagavad Gita, a sacred book of Hinduism. Already you are knowing about what is Bhagavad Gita, which is included in Mahabharata. Next, in this, Krishna, the God, asked Arjuna, his devotee and friend, to ignore all the dharmas and take the refuge in him. As only he can set Arjuna free from every evil, this form of worship gradually spread to the different parts of the country. Those who follow the system of Bhakti emphasize devotion and including worship of God as well as goddess, rather than the form of elaborate sacrifice. According to this system and belief, if a devotee worship the chosen deity with a pure heart, what will happen then? The deity will appear in the form in which he or she may desire. Next, the deity could be thought the human being, land and trees or any form. Once the idea gains acceptance, artists make beautiful images of this deity. Because of the deities were special, these images of the deity were often placed within the special home place and that were described as a temple. Nowadays also at our home we used to keep our temple and in that the beautiful photograph of the god and goddess and we used to worship. Then you will learn more about of these temples in the chapter number 11. Bhakti inspired some of the best expression in the art, sculpture, poetry and architecture. Next, we are going to see about the match the following of this chapter. Please take a pen or pencil in your hand and continue. First one, match the following. So these are the answer, right? Please have the tick marks of the answer. This is Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. This is answer of this one. Question for you. Question is this one, right? How you are going to write in the notebook? In this way. Movendra, Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. Lord of Dakshinapatha, who were there? That is the Satvana rulers. Then Ashwagosha. So that's a correct match. That's a Buddha Charita. Then Bodhisattva, what was that? Mahayana Buddhism, a new form of Buddhism. And like Xuanzang, who was he? So he was a Chinese pilgrim. Next question. Second, why did the king wanted to control the Silk Road? Already I cleared you. The Silk Road was very important. The trader used to pass from that. They used to have a precious gift. If they are controlling that one, protecting the traders are offering precious gift to the king. Please see the answer. The king wanted to control the Silk Road because they could benefit from the taxes, tributes and gifts that were brought by the traders and the people right along the route. Next, question number 3. What kind of evidence will the historian use to find out about the trade and trader route? So here is the answer for you. That is given at the starting of this chapter, right? Where you can find out this here. The answer is given in this first paragraph, right? And second. Next, fine poetry, especially the bowls in the plates were formed from the several archaeological sites, right? You have to make a notes of this one and write in the points. Next, what were the main features of the bhakti? So, in this form I placed, but you have to write in point wise. The answer is given here. The beginning of bhakti from these first, second and third. These two paragraphs are very important. From this you have to extract the notes and then you have to write it. Next, last question. Discuss the reason why Chinese pilgrims came to India. So the reason was very simple. They were coming to India to see the places associated with the Buddha and to have a Buddhist religious book with them, and they also carry a number of the book back with them. Finally, I request you, please do the homework, because slowly after 1 or 2 days we are going to completing our syllabus, and this is very important to write down the all chapters question answers in your notebook. If still you are remaining to prepare, please watch my all videos. If you haven't subscribed my channel, please subscribe it, because it's going to give you benefit. All the videos step by step, word by word I explain in that. Please, you can understand that one. Please do the homework. Thank you to each and everyone. Jai.